First, let's just say this. Derek Dooley, thank you for joining us on the Georgia Vote.
Good to be here.
Appreciate making the time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You've made a lot of news recently. Let's dive into the big question I think everybody is wondering right now. You're a football coach.
Right.
Why do you want to be a senator now?
Yeah. Well, I'm here because I think we need new leadership in the Senate that's going to put the people of Georgia first. And I spent a 3-decade career probably doing the exact opposite of what a lot of the guys in D.C. were doing. And, I rolled up my sleeves every day. I was working with all walks of life. It didn't matter what their race was, their income, their religion, their politics, none of that mattered. You were just working hard every day to try to create better opportunity in their life. And just as we got an outsider in the president who came in and didn't accept business as usual in Washington, he's delivered results for the American people. I think we need more of that in the U.S. Senate, somebody that's going to focus on results and deliver what the Georgia people want.
Can you pinpoint one moment, one crystallizing moment that made you decide, I'm going to take this big career pivot?
Well, it really started in my head after COVID, during the Biden administration. I started seeing things in our country that I never thought I would see.
Like what?
Well, let's start with the lawlessness that was going on in some of our cities. Let's talk about the government overreach that was happening and the censorship that was going on. Let's talk about the border getting poured wide open with unchecked immigrants wreaking havoc. Let's talk about the 40-year high inflation from pumping trillions of dollars. And so I think leadership matters. And it really woke me up. I was frustrated with leadership going on nationally. And listen, I was also frustrated with a lot of the things that were going on in college athletics from a leadership standpoint. And I just felt this pull, the same pull that I felt when I was practicing law and jumped into coaching. I wanted to serve and lead in a different way. I felt that same pull. And listen, I wasn't planning on running for U.S. Senate at that moment. I just knew something was pulling me out of coaching to make a difference, and here I am.
You mentioned one of the things that really got your gears turning and thinking about politics was immigration. If you are elected to the U.S. Senate, that's an issue that's going to be front and center for you.
Yes.
If you're elected, what do you propose be done to solve the immigration challenge?
Well, I think the first thing we got to do is make sure we rectify this crisis we're in. We started with keeping the border or closing the border, and that's paramount, keeping the border closed. But we still have an issue out there of a lot of unchecked immigrants wreaking havoc on our cities or sowing discord in our country.
Can you point to some examples of that?
And we got to get them out. Well, any of the crimes, any guys out there committing crimes on our people, on the American taxpayers, hardworking Americans, they need to go. They're illegally here and they're causing problems in our society. But we do, have a system that we need to protect for a lot of our local industries here. Agriculture depends on it, hospitality depends on it, a lot of our manufacturing depends on it in Georgia companies. And we definitely need to ensure that the immigration system is set up in a way where people can be here legally using the work permits, the visa programs, without putting a burden on those companies. But the most important thing is we don't get distracted and we deal with this crisis first.
I think if I'm hearing you right, you're alluding to this, a little bit of a tension here too between, as you put it, concerns about undocumented immigrants committing crimes in the United States and other immigrants in the United States who play a vital role in the American economy and in American society. I want to ask you a question that we hear sometimes and put it to you. What do you propose be done about people who are in the United States without proper documentation but are otherwise law-abiding citizens?
My proposal is let's don't get distracted on 15 other extraneous issues that doesn't solve our first problem of keeping our community safe. And so there's a little bit of sequential tasking I think we need to do because it relates to the safety of our people. And so let's get them out, all right, and then we address these issues because immigration is a very important part of our country and it's a very important part of our industries in Georgia. And we need to make sure that we do have legal ways that people can come here, they can give back to our country, they can assimilate, and it's not a burden on our companies.
To somebody who might be in the country without proper documentation and they're seeing this emphasis on enforcement, what would you tell them?
Well, they shouldn't be here in the first place. That's the thing I would tell them. Like, what do you think? I mean, you think you can just come here illegally and no problem. But I would definitely say don't commit crimes here, don't wreak havoc on our society, and you better figure out a way to get here legally.
Let's shift gears. This is a question we always ask candidates, and we've talked about a couple different topics already, but I want to make sure I pose this directly to you. What is the #1 challenge facing Georgia right now?
Well, it's always to me about job creation, job growth, which gives opportunity for our hardworking people. And so, I think our greatest resource in our country and our state is our people. Sometimes we lose sight of that. We talk about all these, AI and machines and technology. Our best resources are people. And that's where our investment needs to be in, is developing skills for our young people, all right, creating opportunity, and letting the job creators go to work, the government getting out of the way. And so that's, to me, our primary focus. I've been in the young people business my whole career in football. I mean, that was what we were all about. Let's develop skills of our young people so that when they leave out the football program, they're really better equipped to have a great life. Well, what are we doing as a government to develop those skills for all of our young people? And I think that should be our focus.
Specifically, how do you do that?
There's a lot of ways, okay? But I think the first thing is, let's talk about this. All right, we told this lie, okay, to a lot of our people that everybody should go to college. And when you go to college, you're going to get these great jobs. All right, and I just think that was one of the biggest mistakes that we could tell our young people. And then we look at them and say, oh, well, you're a failure if you didn't do that. All right, I think that's horrible. And it's caused us, it put us in a real bind here. So why are we incentivizing people only to go to college? Our federal government should be incentivizing everybody to develop skills. And so for the people who can't afford college, all right, we're helping them. That's great if they want to go. But what about the people who don't want to go to college, who can't afford, and they want to go into a trade, and they want to develop other skills? What is our country doing to help them? And so I just, I think that's the #1 priority. We have a massive change going on in our workforce. I mean, you see President Trump's bringing a lot of these manufacturing jobs back that are great jobs, high-paying jobs. There's a lot of skilled jobs out there, high-paying, great. But what are we doing to create that opportunity for our people?
Let's talk about your record a little bit. I want to float something to you.
My coaching record?
Well, we can talk about that too if you like. We may get into that.
Yeah.
One thing that I have heard and a criticism that some of your opponents have raised is that they say you did not vote in 2016 and 2020. Is that true?
Well, I did vote in 2024 for Donald Trump.
And but did you vote in 2016 and 2020?
There was a time, and those were part of that time in my career, where I was overly focused on my job and my family, and I didn't vote. I was moving state to state. It's not an excuse. It was what it was. I was overly focused. But I did vote in 2024 and 2022, and back to what I told you earlier, COVID and the Biden administration changed me. It really had an impact on me, and it told me, you know what, you need to get in the game here.
There may be some people, and everybody's voting record is their own. There's a reason we have a secret ballot and how you cast your ballot, but whether you vote is public record. I'd imagine there may be some people who hear that and then they hear you asking for them to cast a ballot for you and might think, well, if you didn't vote in pivotal elections in 2016 and 2020, why should they come and cast a vote for you?
Well, the objective is, let's get this seat back and beat Jon Ossoff. And so just like I voted for Donald Trump to get Biden out of there, all right, just like I voted for Governor Kemp to make sure Stacey Abrams didn't get in office, I'm asking the people to do what I did and vote for me to get Jon Ossoff out of the seat.
Is that your #1 priority, to flip the seat?
My #1 priority is to win, because I have such a passion for how I think we need change in Washington. You know, in my opinion, there's a lot of frustration out there, and I don't think it's just with me. Too many people that are up there too long, they get too little results, they get too rich, and they're more concerned. They kind of get intoxicated with the power, and they get more concerned about either their own political career or being a celebrity on TV, and they forget why they're there. They're there to serve the people. They're there to listen, create some common ground and connect with the people of Georgia, and then deliver results. And so just like we had it at president, I just think we need more of that mindset in the Senate.
Do you think that your experience as a coach gives you some skills that maybe some other candidates don't have?
Well, I've been working with people my whole career, and when I say people, I mean people from all walks of life. It didn't matter what their race or income or religion or politics were. And I sat in kitchens and living rooms of beautiful mansions, and I sat in places that had dirt floors. And so you really connected and understood with what the trials and struggles of all the people have. It's not just the people maybe who aren't as financially well off. Everybody has struggles, all right? And so as a coach, you had to go in those houses, and you're with people a lot of times that didn't look like you, didn't think like you, they didn't act like you, and you're asking them to trust you. That I'm going to take your son or nephew or whoever it was in your family, and then you can trust me to go not only help him develop skills to be a better player, but I'm going to help him develop life skills. Something that when he leaves out of here in 3 or 4 years, he's going to be way better off and better equipped to do things that he might never had an opportunity to do.
Some of your opponents have raised the issue, and I've heard you say this too, talk about your leadership and experience leading big organizations like a team. At least one of your Senate opponents has brought up your record as a head coach and said that overall as a head coach you had a losing record. Do you think that's a knock against your leadership skills?
I actually think it's a plus, and I'll tell you why. Because I was a part of some great teams. National champions, SEC champions, NFC division titles in the NFL. But I was a part of some teams where I got my teeth kicked in. I mean, it was tough. And I think what people don't understand is what's happening during that week after you're having a tough time with what do you learn from it? All right, what do you learn about overcoming adversity and staying together and keep fighting for each other and finding solutions on how to get better? All right, and to me, this is why I think people love football, because it truly is the American spirit. Think about, nobody's life is perfect all the time. We go through hard years, we go through tough days. Sometimes it's because of things we did, sometimes it's things that were outside of our control. And so I can understand and relate to people who are going through that stuff because I went through it. All right, life isn't about winning all the time. That's our goal, that's what we want to do, but the lessons you learn from getting your teeth kicked in, they're invaluable.
Let's shift gears and talk about safety. It is an issue that is top of mind for people all across the country and right here in Georgia all the time, especially on a week like this. We're taping this conversation on Thursday. Earlier this week, we saw a mass shooting in Minneapolis. Earlier this month, here in Georgia, there was the CDC shooting. There was a shooting at Fort Stewart, and of course, last year, there was the shooting at Appalachian High School. If you're elected to the U.S. Senate, what will you do to stop these active shooters?
Let me just start with saying I got 3 kids, okay? And like when I saw, every time we see a news, something like that, I mean, your heart, it just sinks because I can't even imagine what the parents are going through, all right? And that's, listen, that's real. If you have kids, it's real. I think at some point, we got to put politics aside. And we got to address and acknowledge a mental health crisis, in my opinion, that's going on with our younger generation, okay? Let's just look at some of the data. Over the last 10 or 15 years, all right, we've seen anxiety and depression literally double in our young people, okay? We have seen suicides go up over 60%, all right? And it's like we have our head in the sand. Now listen, this is why I love football. You think we didn't have players come in our office crying, struggling? I mean, young people struggle. Hell, old people struggle, okay? We all struggle. But we were there to support them and love them. Do you think we didn't see young people who maybe didn't have the confidence to reach out and tell them I'm struggling, that we weren't noticing things, and we pull them in and talk to them? And I like to think we probably saved a lot of guys from going down a rabbit hole. All right, so my point is we need to make this a priority. And again, it goes back to it's our greatest resource in our country. It's our young people. So why aren't we doing more things to address these issues so that they can have the kind of life that my generation had?
You talk about mental health component, and that's always a component of this conversation, I want to make sure we address another issue that some people often raise in the wake of these kinds of attacks. Some people argue that access to firearms and the ability to restrict access to firearms to some people, maybe via things like a red flag law that some states have adopted, is another component of the solution to these kinds of acts of violence. Would you support anything like that?
Well, the issue with the red flag laws is I'm an old lawyer, and so the first thing you learn as a lawyer is due process. I mean, everybody should have a right to due process before they're taking away a constitutional right. And so that's my biggest concern there on the red flag laws.
You say concern, and you were a practicing attorney. You got a lot further in your law career than I did. But when you talk about the due process, you say it's a concern. Is it something that you would be open to considering, or is that a no-go for you?
Well, look, it goes back to the mental health issue. If we have people who are struggling, okay, we need to make dang sure that they don't have access to this stuff. All right, and so it does relate, but we also can't just give unilateral control of other people to say that guy can't have a gun. I mean, he's got a Second Amendment right. Hell, I have guns, and I don't want somebody being able to say, take Dooley's gun away, because he's crazy, and I don't have a chance to defend myself. I don't think that any American wants that.
You talk a lot about your experience with young people through your coaching career. You mentioned you're a parent of 3 kids yourself. One thing we hear a lot from young people is concerns about affordability. And it's not just young people either.
Absolutely.
Georgians are worried about the cost of living. If you're elected, what will you do to make things more affordable?
All right. That is a major issue, okay? I have kids, great job, doing great. And the question is, Dad, when am I going to be able to buy a house? And you think that doesn't hit me? This is if you said, what is my number one focus, it's how do the young people, all right, feel like they got the American opportunity and dreams that we felt like we had. Affordability is part of that. And it's not an easy issue, okay? We can't forget we are in an absolute fiscal crisis. A lot of what because of what's happened under the Biden administration with John Ossoff supporting him 98% of the time. I mean, we have this debt issue. It's a major issue. Our president and his administration is taking steps to get there. A lot of people, you go through some tough chaos that's going on. They're taking steps. We have a housing issue of affordability. We need to figure out ways to build more houses, get the government out of the way of these builders with all this regulation. We got to get these costs down. And so this is a major issue that I'm going to be addressing as U.S. Senate. And there's not one perfect solution. I mean, these are complex economic issues that have been created from too much government spending. We spend too much dang money, and it's gotten us in a mess. A third of our budget is paying off debt, all right? And nobody, I mean, think about this. We hadn't balanced a budget in 25 years. 25, can you imagine a company, running a company or a household, and for 25 straight years, you're spending more than you brought in, all right? And so why is that? And these are issues we got to address, and a lot of it is what happens. People are up there more worried about getting reelected, all right? They're more worried about their political career than serving the people of Georgia and getting it right for our kids.
One proposal that's been floated here in Georgia when we talk about the affordability component is eliminating the state income tax. Is that something you would support?
Well, that's not for me. I wish we could eliminate all tax, but we got to have revenue to help serve the people. So that's an issue Bert has brought up, and I've lived in states that didn't have income tax. I've lived in states that did, but I'm a common sense guy. If 60% of your revenue is coming from income tax and you get rid of it, what's the trade-off? Everything's a trade-off. And so I think the important thing is not eliminate it. Yeah, everybody, of course we want to eliminate it, but we all got to understand what's the trade-off. And then the Georgia people got to decide if that's what they want.
I want to ask you just a couple last questions to you. You've been very kind with your time, and we appreciate it. You have spent a lot of time in your still very young campaign, but nonetheless, you spent a lot of time.
Not even a month in.
It's been a lot of ground covered in 4 weeks, though, and many more months to come, probably.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time talking about your support of President Donald Trump. You said it in your campaign launch video. You said it at the beginning of our conversation here. You said, hey, in 2024, you voted for President Trump. Are there any issues where you disagree with President Trump?
Well, let's start with what he campaigned on, okay? And so his core issues that he campaigned on, whether it was closing the border, all right, whether it was keeping our community safe and deporting a lot of these felons, whether it was keeping your taxes low, whether it was promoting peace by strengthening our military, all these things that he campaigned on, I absolutely support. That's why I've said I support the president, what he's doing, and I think what's amazing about it is the results that he's gotten in doing it. And so that's why I've been so supportive, and people have said, well, you know, he's never said he supports Trump, and now I say I support Trump, and they can't understand why.
Is there any space between your positions and his positions? Anything you disagree on?
Well, I can't sit there and articulate every single issue that might be in his head and say, yeah, I'm all in. You know, there's a lot going on that of talk versus actual policy. And what I can tell you is what he's campaigned on and the results that he's delivered, I'm absolutely in support of it.
No disagreement?
Not on those issues.
Do you support his move to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook from the board?
Well, I don't know all the facts of that case, okay? And do I believe it's good to have, keep politics out of it? Of course, but I don't know what the circumstances are. Do I believe that people should be in there without some kind of check and balance on what your behavior is or what you've done in the past? No, and so I just think we got to let the process play out and see where it lands.
Derek, we always end on this. We've covered a lot of ground. To somebody who maybe doesn't know you, to somebody who's just hearing about you as a candidate right now, your elevator pitch to a potential voter is what?
How much time you got? All right. Here's what I will tell you though. If you said what motivates me the most on doing this, I was 12 years old when Ronald Reagan got elected. Okay, he was really my first political inspiration because he inspired a belief in our country and its greatness, the ideals it stands for, and the opportunities it represents. And I just have a tremendous pride in this country. And I want my kids' generation and the next generation to have the same amount of pride. And that's why I'm doing this, because I want to pass off this country to our next generation in the same way that our parents passed it off to us. And we got a lot of work to do.
Derek Dooley, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's great.